It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show!
Hey there, everybody. It's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name's Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey, gang.
Les Webster.
Hello, all.
And Liz Newman.
Hello, everybody.
How are you guys doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Good.
How do we do this again?
Right? Hey, at least you can hear me this week.
Uh-huh. We can. Well, that's because you have internet again.
Right. Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah. Apologize for no episode last week, but as you just heard, Liz did not have internet for a majority of the week, so we could not record. So.
And she managed to survive, which I'm impressed.
Yeah,
I am too.
A few extra gray hairs. I'll have to dye this weekend, you know.
So, what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy? Liz is not going to have a whole hell of a lot. No internet.
She didn't have the internet.
Yeah.
She couldn't do anything. Jeez.
I couldn't do nothing. I've been, like I told you guys, I've read half a book twice. Although it was pretty cool because I did want to get back into reading, and I did go ahead and get that series. It's finally downloaded on my tablet.
Oh, I just make sure the baby
How
doesn't
long?
get hold of it.
Right. But a while back, they gave me half of the first Witcher book. And it's interesting because the very first of this book, it pretty much played out the way that the TV series did. So in my head, it was like, yeah, I can see why Henry Cavill was really excited to do this project. And, yeah, the way it turned and derived from the source material, I can see why he was like, I'm done. Take my name off this. I'm done. So, which I heard they're gearing up for the 4th season. They've got Liam. Yeah. I think that's supposed to be in June. So, we'll see. I'll give it a shot.
Will you, though?
Yeah, you know. Honestly, though, if we knew in the 3rd season that Henry Cavill was leaving. We knew he was. He had made it very clear. The way the show kind of turned, the show made it very clear. You know, he was on his way out. I was too, and not just because of him, but because I said it once and I'll say it again. I think the show, instead of being The Witcher, has turned into The Witches, and I just don't want to watch another witch show, you know, so.
It was Agatha all along.
Yeah. And see, and
Which
that's
show?
the thing. There's been better, you know, so. It's not even a very good witch story, so. Yeah. But no, other than that, I have not really had a lot go. Well, I've had too damn much going on. You know?
Well, sure.
But no, just if you live in Texas with all this water that we've been getting everywhere, check your outside electronics for ants. You'll thank me later. That was crazy, though. I've lived in this house for 30 years. I have never had that problem before. So,
Well, it's been a while since
new one
we've
for
had
me.
this much rain in one year, so, you know.
That is true. And it took forever
that's
to
what
dry
happens.
out.
It's the ants.
Yep.
The ants go down, and to find water, and so when the water's here, they come back up because they're looking for water, but that doesn't mean they can breathe it, so
Yeah, they've got to live somewhere.
they come back up to the surface.
Well, my yard, all of my fence line is completely covered with trees, which in the summertime, it winds up getting taken over by honeysuckle and ivy, and it makes its own like little privacy fence. But usually that doesn't happen until like June. You know, within, I'm going to say within a week, my yard completely turned green. Everything was bushy. The grass needs to be mowed. I mean, it just really, this rain made everything, it must have had steroids in it. You know?
Right, it's raining
Because,
miracle grow in here.
yeah. And
It's
of
the
course,
good shit.
I've got this vine going from the top of the fence all the way across the back of the house. And I'm telling this guy, this wasn't like this last week. And he's looking at me like, yeah, uh-huh. And it's like, really? This is not like this last week. But it had grown. Brandon's room's on the back of the house, and he has an air conditioner in the window. And there was like vines growing up into the window. You know, so it's like this thing it went crazy. So
It's like something out of a 50s sci-fi movie.
yeah,
The weeds are taking over.
but it's all cleared now, and it's all pretty out there again. So
So if Liz
yay.
isn't here next week, we're going to blame the Triffids.
Or a giant hogweed. Either one.
One way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's about it for me. I haven't been able to do much of anything.
A little bit of a
Not
distraction.
newsworthy anyways.
Right. Nothing you're willing to talk about in public.
Right.
I have
Well, that's
weeks like
like
that too.
what, an hour of pre-show time?
Yeah, there's a reason why we let you do that, you know.
Right.
Give you a chance to say all the stuff we know you don't want to get published.
And keep the listeners awake.
Well, no, of course that's not what I meant. Well, okay, I guess I need to jump in here and take over. So
Look at that. You didn't even have to ding me out.
No, I didn't. Not this time. It's always a nice change of pace when I don't have to be subtle.
Threaten me.
Right. Be subtle with multiple uses of the word kneecaps. But anyway. So yeah, in a couple of weeks, I even managed to watch a movie or two. The one I'm going to tell everybody about is an interesting artifact of a movie. I'm not going to go so far as to say it was good, but it's a movie I would recommend you watch anyway. It is called The Flying Saucer. This came out in 1950, which causes the movie to tout itself as the world's first flying saucer movie. It might have been. I don't know. It was close because, I mean, the flying saucer craze started in, 47? So it would have to be relatively, there wouldn't be a whole lot out there yet. But anyway, this story is about a guy who is apparently, actually the intro to this movie is a little more complicated than it needs to be. The Wikipedia article touts this as a science fiction spy film drama. It's always funny how they do that because they usually end up slapping like 3 or 4 subgenres in there. So the story is about this guy Mike, who is apparently some sort of wealthy playboy in New York, who is originally from Alaska. And the reason that's important is because the Secret Service comes to him and says, hey, we need you to go investigate this thing. There are reports of some sort of weird flying thing in Alaska. You know the territory, so we would like for you to go assist this agent we have and figure out what the hell's going on and figure out where this is really coming from. And so he hems and haws and doesn't want to do it. And then the Secret Service agent walks in, and she's kind of a hottie, so he's all of a sudden ready to go.
So he went north to Alaska.
He went north to Alaska. And so that's like the first 10 minutes of what's like a 70, 75-minute movie. I don't remember exact length, but it's close to that. It's more than an hour, but it's not quite an hour and a half. Most of the rest of the movie is hard to distinguish between a science fiction spy film drama and a showcase for how beautiful Alaska is. It's real hard to tell the difference at times. They call this a spy film. It's not the fastest moving spy film ever created, let me tell you. But so yeah, there ends up being a bunch of running around, and I won't go into too many spoilers, but I will say that the flying machine is man-made, so that there's not any. They're already putting a lid on. I mean, this claims to be independently made too, and they're already like. I guess this guy didn't figure if he decided if he put in his movie that it was aliens, that it wouldn't get released somehow. Who knows? But yeah, it's a scientist has built the thing. Maybe that's the science fiction part, because there's very little science fiction in this movie. There's a whole lot of beautiful Alaska scenery in a 1950 movie that the print's not in very good shape, but you still get the idea. So it's not a good movie necessarily, but it's an interesting movie in that, like I said, it claims to be an independent picture in 1950, which, I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of those, but not a ton of them are still around because they didn't have big studios to preserve them. So it's fun in that regard. It's very nicely shot, even if what's being shot is not really about the story at all. There's some interesting ideas. The guy who wrote it and directed it and starred in it, take from that what you will. There is a story. It's probably not 75 minutes worth of story, but there's a story. It's fine. It's funny.
This a Snyder film?
I don't think Snyder was even born yet when this came out.
I had to.
No, you didn't.
Oh, really? No.
I don't know. Beautiful scenery, long drawn out story. I mean, come on. Had to be asked.
But not 50s though.
Yeah. Not 1950.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless he time traveled.
Which, who can say?
Who knows?
Anything's possible. But yeah, that's the Flying Saucer. It's on Tubi, so it's out there. It's not, like I said, it's not a total waste of 75 minutes. It's fine. It's not the greatest science fiction movie in the world, but it's not the greatest spy movie in the world either. But overall, it's not bad.
Why did the X-Files theme go through my head when you said it's out there? Never mind.
I know, I'm with you. This is nowhere near X-Files quality, though.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprisingly.
Yeah.
Being 40 years prior. But yeah. It's an interesting artifact.
Okay. Cool. I know Les wants to watch it.
Kind of do.
Actually, I'll be honest. I would like to watch it just to see the scenery, see Alaska. That would be kind of cool to watch. So, might do it just for that purpose.
Yep, and I found it funny. I mean, I'm sure it's not a huge city or anything, but it's where the two quote unquote spies end up is like outside, like noticeably outside of Juneau. How much that was really Juneau in 1950 or 49 or 48 or whenever the hell they shot this it would be interesting to know because man, is it a tiny little place. I would also be interested in seeing how big it is today. But
And that was before it was a state.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that, but yeah.
So it was a foreign film.
I
Sorry.
mean, it was a what's the term for it? It was a territory. I think that's what they used to call them.
Yeah.
It was similar to whatever Puerto Rico is now.
But a little bit colder.
Significantly,
Just a
I
little
would think.
bit.
Yeah.
Yep. Different sides of the equator.
According to our friend Google, the current population is right around 32,000. It was smaller in 1950, let me tell you.
Mm. Alrighty. Les?
Well, I didn't do much, but I do want to hope that everybody got to take part in Free Comic Book Day while we were out. Thomas and I took in a couple stores and spent all my money I could. So,
Oh God, did he? I was almost there.
it was fun. We had a good time, and
Mm-hmm.
I know I did.
I did too.
And it was nice to get out and see some old faces.
Mm-hmm.
And take in the good stuff that was available. And there was a lot of good stuff. So like I said, I hope everybody else enjoyed it and got the chance to partake, because it was different, and it was pretty thrilling to take part in all this. So that's about all I got to say about it.
Okay. Yeah, I had a good time too. Picked up some stuff that I didn't think I would ever I would find, because it's out of print and no one seems to have it. So I was very lucky there. You gotta love the YouTube algorithms. How all of a sudden it just starts suggesting stuff that really I don't know how it came up with these suggestions, but it did. One of them we'll save to next week. We'll talk about it next week because it kind of ties in a little bit to what we're going to be doing next week. But the other one is the channel is called Robert's Retro Rewind. And basically what this channel does is it focuses on TV and films from the 70s and then characters from those said TV shows and movies from the 70s. Now, he's done a series of videos. Most recent has been, well, as of recording 6 days ago, what he's called short-lived TV shows of a particular season. Now, I will tell you this. I've watched maybe about 3 or 4 of these. Some of these that he's calling, they're short-lived because they were summer replacements. They were only 4 or 5 episodes, and they were only going from June to August. So it was basically stuff to kind of tide things over until the new season. But there was some interesting stuff that popped up. I want to just point out a couple of these. One thing I'm going to reference back to our interview with Madeline. Remember where we were talking about some of the shows and all that? Somehow Andy Griffith's name got brought up, and I don't remember who said it, but someone said that it mentioned that he really hadn't had any failures, and I brought up the whole thing as Salvage 1 from 1979. Well, hold on to your butts. 1970-1971. Headmaster, starring Andy Griffith and Jerry Van Dyke, lasted 14 episodes. Same season, The New Andy Griffith Show, starring Andy Griffith and Lee Merriweather, 10 episodes. He had 2 shows that season, and both of them were canceled.
Ouch.
So, he wasn't as successful as we thought he was. It's just when he was big time successful.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. And something I noticed watching some of these, because what Robert does is he'll actually play, if he's able to obtain it, he'll play the opening credits, thing, and then he'll give you information of what network it was on, what times it was on, how many episodes, and then it'll pop up the screen saying what it did in the ratings and basically what it was up against. And of course, most of these you're going, there was no freaking way they were going to do anything better than third. Which back then there was only 3 networks, so
Right.
Another one from the 70-71 season, I was like, this is interesting. I would really love to see someone try to pick this up and try to bring it back. It's entitled The Immortal, and it starred Christopher George. That's a name I've mentioned in the past. He was the bounty hunter in El Dorado who was hired to take down Robert Mitchum. He was the guy with the scar. And
he did a bunch of stuff back in that.
He did. Oh God. He's big time in the 70s. Oh yeah, he was everywhere. His most famous for Rat Patrol in the 60s as well. Sorry that, but here's the premise. A man whose blood chemistry and resistance to almost all diseases, including old age, makes him both almost immortal and a target for several wealthy men to use him as a personal blood bank. The pilot is based on the 1964 science fiction novel The Immortals by James Gunn. Not the same James Gunn.
Not the same James Gunn, right.
But I'm like, that's a freaking cool idea. And I'm like, that sounds kind of familiar. And I started kind of scratching my head and thinking, and it finally dawned on me. Why The Last Man? Very similar premise. Now, I'm not saying that's how Brian K. Vaughan came up with the idea, but it's kind of interesting.
That's a story that's been done multiple times.
So,
or variations on it.
I would love to see this.
I remember
it only lasted
TV show a couple of years. Well, okay, knowing me at this point is more like 10 years back, but that's just because I've lost all track of time. It was, I don't remember what it was called, but it was about this doctor who was he was very careful about hiding his identity, but he was like 200 years old.
Okay.
And looked 40, looked 35 or 40. It's set in the modern day, and he had raised a kid that he had found this orphan like during World War II, and had raised him, and so they were masquerading as father and son the other way around in New York modern day.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because he obviously told the kid.
Right.
And so he had gotten to be, he's like an ME or something, and had was making friends with a detective, and it was an interesting show, but it didn't last very long, unfortunately. I don't know why shows like that don't last, but
Well, I mean, it depends on what it's up against.
Because clearly I am not the normal, everyday, average audience for stuff. So, whatever.
I only got a couple of others here real quick, and it's actually the following season, 71 and 72. Okay, this was a sitcom titled The Chicago Teddy Bears. And it's about a man and his uncle who was running a speakeasy in Prohibition, Chicago. Stars Dean Jones and John Banner. This was his last regular role.
Oh, wow.
John Banner, who was Sergeant Schultz in Hogan's Heroes.
Mm-hmm.
I know nothing. See, I want to see that now. I'm sure it's horrible, but I want to see that. A couple other things here real quick. Also the same year, the DA in O'Hara U.S. Treasury. DA starred Robert Conrad and Harry Morgan. Lasted 15 episodes. I didn't say, but the Chicago Teddy Bears was 13 episodes. O'Hara U.S. Treasury was 23 episodes and starred David Jansen. The reason why I mentioned both of those is both of those were Jack Webb productions. Jack Webb of Dragnet fame. Although
Harry Morgan was on there with him too.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And O'Hara was actually co-produced by David Jansen as well.
Sure.
So, and the last one I'm going to mention just for now, because I like I said, I only watched a couple of these. I seem to remember seeing a bit of bits and pieces here and there. It's entitled The Persuaders. It lasted 23 episodes, starred Roger Moore and Tony Curtis. Isn't that an interesting pairing?
Sure, yeah.
So we'll put a link in the show notes for you to check this out. But he's done all the 70s of the TV shows. Another thing I want to point out, of course, how heavily the variety show was during the 70s. Now, we've kind of talked about this a little bit before, but he went out so far as to, I think he listed all the variety shows for the season 1970-1971, 17.
Right, and again, 3 networks.
Three networks. So they averaged 8 apiece. I mean, I don't know if they did, but yeah. Just averaged them out to 8 shows apiece. And they gave them to anybody who they wanted.
Right, anybody they found vaguely entertaining.
I saw one listing for Starlight Vocal Band.
Wow.
After Afternoon Delight people. Of course, it only lasted 4 episodes, but it was probably a summer replacement. I don't remember the dates, but that's probably where a lot of it happened, was during the summer, because they were trying to fill time to get back to the next season.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to watch some of these, and some, like I said, some that, a lot of them have the openings. And I'm sitting there watching, trying to figure out what the hell it is, and then I find out when it pops up with the information, because there's like the Jimmy Stewart Show. Well, that was a sitcom. You wouldn't know that because the opening is him riding a bike in the neighborhood heading up to his house. That doesn't scream sitcom to me, but hey, what do I know?
Shows had all kinds of intros back then. I mean, they do now too.
Well, they do too. But it was kind of funny because it dawned on me, because there's like I'm watching these back to back to back to back, these openings, and I'm going, you're not telling me what the hell this show is about. And I start thinking, well, do they do that today? Can you tell what the show is about by watching the opening? And in a lot of cases, you probably can't.
Right.
So it's just as bad now as it was then.
I mean, the opening is really just to
to
carry the credits. That's all
Yeah.
it's doing. It doesn't make any difference I mean, you wouldn't know anything about CSI just from watching the opening.
Yeah.
Other than the guy who creates it is a big Who fan.
Right. So, there's going to be something else I was going to mention, but I can't remember it right now. It's not important, I guess. But it's been fun kind of watching it, and yeah, I mean, there's like I said, there's a couple of shows that like I wouldn't mind seeing these. They're probably horrible, but
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind just checking them out because from what I saw, I'm kind of interested, whether it's the cast or the opening or whatever.
Right, and if nothing else on this show, I mean, just watching something doesn't necessarily have anything to do with whether there's any quality involved.
Right.
We don't care. We'll watch crap. We don't care.
Yeah. Sometimes it's even funner to watch crap.
Exactly. You have to watch a lot of crap to get to the point where you realize that, though, I think.
Yeah.
But I would definitely want to see. I want to see The Mortal. I want to see that one so bad. Because I just love the premise.
Yeah. It's like the opposite of a vampire.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean, the opening's just him on the run,
Mm-hmm.
and you hear, and there's these voiceovers of people who are trying to track him down. They even mention his brother, wondering if his brother has the same condition. So he's trying to find his brother to warn him. I'm like, this kind of sounds like a cool show.
Could be. I mean, clearly somebody didn't think it was because it didn't make it, but...
Well, once again, it depends on what it was up against. Because, I mean, some of the stuff, I'm like, some of these shows, I'm like, oh, that sounds kind of interesting. Then you look and it's up against Sanford and Son and the Waltons, and you're going, okay, well, I can see why it didn't last long.
Right. They're running it alongside Gunsmoke, and you're like, oh, okay, that's why that didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, there was that was still going on back in 71.
Mm-hmm.
It was still going on then. So somebody had to play against it.
Yep.
Or worse yet, it was Monday Night Football and Monday Night at the Movies. Okay, well, you definitely can't win against football. The movie's going to depend on what the movie is.
Right. Bambi. Or not Bambi. Heidi.
Heidi.
Oh, Lord.
Heidi Bowl. Woohoo! Liz is just going, huh?
Yep.
We'll explain it later.
Sports ball reference.
Sports ball reference.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's go ahead and get into this week's discussion. What can I say about this movie? We love this movie. Can I say that? We enjoy this movie big time.
Yep. This is one of my favorites.
And it's funny kind of going back and when I was doing research on this and realized that it did not do well when it hit the theaters. This is another one of these cult hits. And I'm talking about the animated film The Iron Giant, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. Wow. Let's talk a little Iron Giant. Go ahead, Liz.
Definitely an example of good animation. I don't think I've ever cried so much watching a cartoon Bambi included. It had its own Bambi scene too. Um, I think it's great when you can take a very complex subject and break it down where even a kid can understand it. And I think that's exactly what this movie did. Um, it and you can almost see it happening. Anytime we have anything good come along, people are like, "Oh, let's blow it up because we don't understand it." you know, um, I don't know what all I can say about this movie. I did for one until I rewatched it. Actually, I finished watching it today because my internet. Um,
Mm.
I didn't realize some of the voice acting in here were the people who it was. I didn't realize Jennifer Aniston was in this movie. Henry Connick, I mean, yeah, he kind of knew his voice, but I was kind of surprised by her because I wouldn't have connected her to this film ever. But she did a really good job. I guess this is set during the Cold War time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they've ever. Maybe they did, and it just went over my head. But I never really understood where he came from. But he fell from the sky, and little boy went and made friends with him. Kind of like Pete the Dragon. He had a big robot friend. I yeah. I guess I think it was really good. Like I said, the scene with the deer, if that doesn't get you crying, at the end when he hears the little boy's voice in his head, you can be what you want to be. And then he says Superman. It was like, oh my God, tear works again. Because really he did. He gave himself so those people wouldn't die. Which to me was, of course it was the right thing because then they'd all be dead. So, why not? Either stay here and die and everyone dies, or I can leave and die. Um, my daughter-in-law actually came over while I was watching the ending of this, and she's like, "Oh, this is the best movie ever." She says, "I didn't realize it was this old," and I said, "What do you mean?" What do you mean old? And she goes, "Well, don't you guys usually watch older films for your podcast?"
Wow.
She's not wrong in that regard. We do watch
So,
old shit.
so I did have to look up when this movie was made, and they would have been about 5, 6 years old when this came out. So,
Right in the wheelhouse.
yeah,
I mean, you'd probably want them a little older than that, but.
yeah. But see, I don't know. Um, I didn't turn it off with Leanne in the room. Even though, like I said, with the deer scene, to me, the deer scene kind of hits home. It made me cry for different reasons watching it around this time, but I think sometimes, especially like at Leanne's age, they don't understand that death is permanent, that there's not an okay after that. That it is what it is, and the impact it made with that deer and on a robot who was not supposed to have feelings. I think even for a kid, it broke it down enough to where, hearing a kid himself explaining what death is. I think the younger ones probably could watch this one, and definitely with an adult, because there is some pretty heavy subjects being dealt with, but I think they handled it in a very classy way. Um, I think the major difference with like Bambi, of course, when we think of dead deer in a cartoon,
Sure, it's hard not to compare, right?
yeah, but there's no there's like no narration of that. We see it happen and we see her drop, and we kind of see Bambi after that deal with the fact that his mother's dead. There was never any explanation really given to him. I mean, there was. He was explained with the hunters and stuff, but the way that they handled the dead deer in this cartoon made it kind of, it explained it better. Mm-hmm. You're not left, drawing your own conclusion. Like with Bambi, you weren't, what happened there? Is she gone? With this, it kind of, yes, it's dead, and this is why, guns kill, and yeah, it's, I really liked the way they handled it. But to introduce it that way and to explain it that way, I think was a good way to do it. And which is why I think when they talked about taking Bambi's mother's scene out of the remastering of Bambi, it was like, I don't think they should. I think when a kid learns of death, it should be in a controlled, if we can, a controlled situation like that. And not just thrown on them, And I'd rather them kind of learn and get to know what that is before it happens to them, because fate, it's going to happen, So I think things like that should be left in, and I won't say it makes it better, but it definitely softens the blow a little bit. It's not, you're not learning about death when it's your grandmother, So, but then to watch this robot grow and, have feelings and a true friend to that little boy, I liked it. I absolutely loved it. It is what animation should be, especially on something that could be a very, Cold War, very heavy subject, How do you lighten that up with a 100-foot robot, And I like that there was no cleaning it up. She was a single mom working her ass off to take care of her kid. There was no little birds doing her dishes or mice getting her shoes. This was mom doing it. So I liked that too. She didn't need a man to make her whole and make it work, So I liked that. So like I said, I think there was a lot of different subjects in this cartoon that was really done beautifully to where, like I said, a kid could learn a lot from it and also learn how to be selfless for your friends, Sometimes doing the right thing isn't easy. Saying goodbye is always hard. There's not a lot of them that'll do that.
Yep, this is a movie that took risks.
Big time.
And to be fair, it didn't really pay off in the box office.
No, I have a
But
theory.
critics liked it.
Oh yeah, it won awards, but
and it's like really... 96% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of the definition of cult classic right here.
Big time.
It just kind of tanked in the box office and then got a huge following soon after.
But we can blame Warner Brothers for that, and we will.
Apparently, jeez.
I think they got scared with this. We've seen them do it with a couple of movies. More recently, standing out in my mind is the Joker. They make something great, and then they step back and they go, "Ooh, we took a big step there, and I don't know if that's going to land the way that we want it to." So they pull back on marketing a little bit. They pull back on advertising and kind of pull their name back from it. And if you don't hear about, especially in 99, you don't hear about a movie, how are you going to go watch it? And if you look, it's a 100-foot robot. Well, especially little girls, well, how does that connect to me? I think they could have put a little bit of oomph behind this a little bit more, and I don't think it would have bombed. I think if they wouldn't have been scared and actually just went, yeah, we did this. Black Label Batman, yeah, we did this. What? Say something. That they get scared. And I think for this one, it was just too real for them. It made the big guys up top feel something. They're like, ooh, we don't know if people are going to like that. Especially for it to be a quote, quote, kids cartoon. It was a big step to take. It is some pretty heavy subject matter in it.
$50 million step to take.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in $1999.
Yeah. Which is now why it's kind of like you want to go, now, of course, they're like, yeah, we did that. That's our guy, and it's like, yeah, but it wasn't. You were ashamed to be on. You were no better than the guy throwing missiles at him. But he did make his comeback in, what the hell is the name of that game? I can't even remember the name of the game now. But he has come back when they brought back their best heroes. So he was labeled the best hero. And it was kind of cool because in the game he teamed up with Superman. So it was like, oh, he met his hero. So
she's going to cry again.
So that was kind of cool. But I am a firm believer there should not be a part 2 to this film. The way it ended was just, it's better left there. With the hope and the imagination,
Yep. Based on a 1968 novel.
Let's see, that I didn't know.
Which makes it interesting that it didn't get made for 30 years.
Yeah. Well, and that when it was made, it was a kid's cartoon,
I would love to know. I mean, we've talked about it before, but it just irritates the crap out of me that at some point cartoons became children's material exclusively.
Yeah.
And I just don't understand. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, flashing colors, lights, captures the attention easy. Probably why I still watch cartoons.
100%, but I think it's more than that. I think there's a lot more to it than that. It would be an interesting study.
Yeah.
I mean, because it clearly happened in like the 50s or somewhere in that vicinity.
Yeah.
Something like I'd love to see where that quote unquote decision came from and how it was arrived at, because I mean, obviously, quote unquote, I'm going to air quote a lot here, Hollywood decided that somehow. And I mean, I've always, my theory about it has always been, and I don't think I'm original here, is that it was TV that did it. Hollywood gave up on animation when TV kind of took it over.
Yeah.
Which would have been in the 50s and 60s mostly. But I find that just unbelievably stupid and short-sighted.
Well,
but
and
anyway.
it is harder to tell a story animated. I would be curious how long it took to make this movie in '99, because now for an animated movie, I mean, we almost waited 2 years for half a season of Invincible because of the animation. So that was, 30 minutes times 4. That was 2 hours worth of animation that we waited that long for.
They started working on a screenplay in '96.
Yeah. So
So it
I
probably took
think
a couple of
that's,
years.
yeah, and I think that's probably part of why Hollywood kind of stepped back from it, because it's a lot of work, and if it doesn't hit right, the payoff isn't as good as shoving Brad Pitt in your face, or look, ooh, here's Angelina. With 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 animation, you have to work to capture that audience. If it's crap, if the person can't draw, you're not going to catch them. If the story doesn't hit right with the moving pictures that you have to lay out just right, it's not going to hit right. So
Yeah, but
there's
that's not really
a
any
lot
different.
of
Directing
risk.
that is no different than directing Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie either.
Right.
You still got to get them going in the right direction. You still got to give them enough of a story to make it interesting. Sure, you don't have to draw them because they're already hot, but
Right.
I mean it's still all part of the process.
Well, with animation though, it's a little more glaringly obvious. You can make some exceptions with, when you've got humans involved. Um,
Clearly, you have never seen Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie's movie that they shot at McDonald's one day.
I guess I didn't.
I am totally screwing with you, but
I was like, no,
I mean that's the only distinction that you can even really make there is that yes, I mean the artwork is important and the artwork, but the deal is the artwork is there but different in a live action movie.
Yeah.
That's why you have directors. That's why you have cinematographers. They're the artists. They're the people that replace the animators in that process, or vice versa.
Yeah.
It's the same deal, which is why I mean, and feel free to believe differently. That's fine, but that's why it doesn't make sense to me that Hollywood gave up on animation
Yeah.
when they did, is because it's. I mean, honestly, you can control it better than you can control actors, and then you can control scenery. I mean, you can draw rain a whole lot easier than you
Oh,
can keep it from raining
kind
on a
of.
set, right?
We'll take Pi Pi, for example. For a little 5-minute cartoon, you have to draw his face at least 1,000 times. And you've got to be perfect, because if not, he's not going to talk right, or he's going to look a little wonky, or, the lips have got to be just right with the voice acting. Brad Pitt's going to have the same face every day. Every day. You don't have to get that just perfect because he's doing that. You're not drawing that. He's
Okay,
that.
my point is that you're focusing on the faces. My point is that there's a whole lot more on the screen than a face on a
Oh yeah,
Popeye cartoon,
for sure.
and
But
all of
the
that has
same
to be
as
consistent.
right. But with a movie set where these things are in place, there's no,
But
I'm
why are
having
they
a
in
bad day,
place?
maybe drew the tree wrong. Well, one tree out of 1,000 cells is going to look different. You're going to throw the whole thing off.
But it's one
So
cell. You pull it out, you replace it with another one.
yeah. But how many people do you have to have look through that to find that one cell?
One, the
But your
director.
audience will tell you.
The director's looking. You got a director in either case, and they're both doing that job. And
Yeah.
there's a cinematographer, and there's animators, and it's. I'm just saying it's probably not as different as you think it is. That's all.
Yeah.
It's different. I'm not telling you it's not different. I'm not saying it's exactly the same. It is different. I just think it's laziness on the part of Hollywood to give up on one versus the other,
It is. I feel it is too.
and a completely wasted opportunity. We could have
And it
had
was
an Iron Giant movie in okay, we'll say 71, just to be on the safe side. It could have been there. But no, we didn't do that. We let it sit for 30 years. See, now I made her mad. Because now she's like, damn it, I wanted an Iron Giant movie in 1971.
when I was 4. Damn it.
Mm-hmm. You weren't 4 in 1971. You were
Oh,
minus 4.
I was I was just saying, yeah.
I was about to say, what the hell? What?
I think 79. But yeah. And I know they don't do it now because it's been thrown into kids' cartoons.
Right, and anytime that somebody tries to do anything different, I mean, to back up or to come back full circle, to give Warner Brothers credit, they actually do create I mean, if not adult animation, then at least teen-friendly animation
Yeah,
with some of the DC stuff.
they do.
So,
And I've always given them props for their animated department.
mhm, you have.
It's actually been better than their cinematic universe for quite a while.
Well, yeah.
And I think with that, though, I think I've said this before too. I think it's because there's not a lot of eyes on those guys. It's kind of like, yeah, you do your thing. We're making the Batman movie over here.
Well, they're
You
giving
know?
them a lot less money to do it.
Yeah,
I mean, they're making a feature-length animated film for way less than Robert Pattinson got for the Batman.
yeah. Which isn't that not kind of crazy?
It is kind of crazy.
All the hands that have to go into making animation compared to acting.
Hmm.
That's insane.
It kind of is.
But I'll always like cartoons.
Oh yeah, me too.
Yep. And I will say there are some that have gotten better now about not just being a kid's cartoon, but not being like sexual and perverted either, you know. I think sometimes it's easy to go for the low joke,
Oh
and
yeah.
we've actually had some now that's actually stepped up and been like, okay, we're not going to go for the low joke, but this is for everyone, you know.
Hmm. And some of them did go with some low jokes. Looking at you, Shrek.
Yeah. And they're making documentaries on them now. It was refreshing to see this kind of animation style, though, and not CGI. Not that I have a problem. I love me some CGI, especially in animation, but it was actually nice to see. I don't know what they call this kind. I don't think it was watercolors. It is cell style, but
Right.
There was some CGI in it, though.
was there?
Yeah,
You think like the explosions and stuff?
yeah.
See, when I think of a CGI cartoon, I think the first one that came along to do it that I remember was like Jimmy Neutron, where they kind of look like a step up from Play-Doh, but they move. That kind of
Okay.
style.
Well, and that didn't. I mean, Jimmy Neutron was is a fairly early example of that, and that would have been well after this, right?
Oh yeah,
So I think
way after.
I'm not sure they could have done this in CGI at the time. I think it was probably more than they could handle. CGI was relatively early in '99,
Well, Phantom Menace is the same year.
and that's almost entirely CGI. But
Yeah.
I mean that and the wooden puppets. Oh no, wait, those were actors. Sorry.
Yeah. Jimmy Neutron was 2002,
There you go.
and it came out of Texas.
Oh boy.
Huh. Yeah. Like I said, I'm not sure. I guess I may be using the wrong word for that style too. But it is computer animated, so
There you go. Close enough.
yeah. But if I was that little boy in this film, when he took off to save everybody and that S fell off his chest, that would have been the piece I would have went back to get of his. Just me, though.
Uh-huh.
And I loved the way it ended.
Les, your thoughts?
Personally, I don't think it's a kid movie. I don't think it was made for kids. I think it was an adult movie that touched more than just the kids' hearts.
Mm-hmm.
This one was an adult movie, and I'm not speaking rudely when I speak of this kind of adult movie. This one was touching. It was amazing to watch. I remember seeing this when it came out, and this is one of the few movies that I have gone to see, then walked out, got another ticket, and watched again. The art was amazing in this, and as a result, to me the script was really good, really fine, although it did not carry the original story. When I saw this, I went out and bought the book to see what differences there were, and there were some. Not that it was all that great, but it was fun to definitely take in as extra reading. It definitely did not have the jokes that this one did, but I can live with that too. This is one I recommend to anybody and everybody. This is one that has caused me to have a tear come to my eye. Because, yes, when the giant says Superman, that's all it takes.
Mm-hmm.
That just sends me
into the sky.
Sends me away.
Yeah. Especially doing what he's doing at that time.
Yes.
It's like that's what Superman would have done, you know?
Right. As for the actors, Jennifer Aniston was superb. And Christopher McDonald, I thought, was really good in this one, playing the agent that was trying to find the giant.
Chris McDonald's pretty good in just about anything he does.
Yeah, he can play a good guy. He can play an evil dude.
He can play a dick big time, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So
when I was first looking up who the cast of this was, and I saw his picture that they have, I don't know why the first thing that popped in my head was Morton Downey Jr. The loudmouth guy. It's just it's the picture they have. Because it's like that's not him. Because I was thinking I didn't know he was in here. He wasn't.
no, McDonald played Henry Mitchell in the Dennis the Menace movie.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He's in quite several roles that were just fun. And he always was the irascible kind of fool that would fall prey to whoever was the main character.
Yeah.
This is one that I put in at least once a year to watch, and it's just fun to do so.
Mm-hmm.
It's one that I highly recommend to people and to our listening audience, believe me. It's well worth the time.
Yep, this ain't the usual tripe we watch. This is a good one.
I'm sorry?
This is not the usual tripe that we watch. This is a good one.
No.
It is a good one.
That is true. It's a really good one.
Yeah.
I didn't know John Mahoney was in this one either.
Played the general.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Emmett Walsh. James Gammon. Cloris Leachman. It's a pretty damn impressive cast, really.
It really is.
I really can't add much more than what y'all said. It's a really good story, executed well. The cast was phenomenal. The look of the film is great.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said, I think I said it earlier. I was floored that this film did not do well at the box office. I think they just didn't know how to promote it. Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, y'all spend a big chunk of time talking about whether aim it toward kids or not, and yeah, it's really, especially with the material. I mean, the Cold War. You can see that maybe going over. I mean, it wasn't emphasized.
Yeah. And the war scenes didn't have any blood or dying,
So, But yeah, definitely one to watch if you've not seen it, which I can't imagine anyone in our audience has not seen this at least once, but it's possible.
Mm-hmm. I had to buy this one again. I know I have it on DVD somewhere, but, who has a DVD player nowadays?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I did have to set my brother-in-law's up when the internet was out. I was just thinking, how long has it been since I've dealt with one of these things?
Mm-hmm.
Can't you watch this on Netflix?
12 o'clock.
Some bitch is still in there flashing 12 o'clock. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She unplugged it 3 days ago. It's still flashing 12 o'clock.
See, surprisingly, I think his is new enough where they're like, fuck that, and it doesn't have
No
one.
time, right. Just don't think you put the time on there. It's easier.
Get that from your TV. Yep.
Yep. Check your phone if you want to know what time it is. Come on now.
Right.
That's what people do these days.
You're watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
No, definitely, like, list. Gotta watch it at least once.
25 years.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem like that long.
No, it doesn't.
And it looks as fresh today as it did back then, too.
It does.
Where some of the older animated, they still look great, but you can tell that they were done from a certain time.
Well, they're not as bright.
Yeah.
It's usually a duller color scheme that they're using. If I had to find one bad thing, I would say, since we've talked about that, in parts of the film it does get dark. I don't know if that's like a copy that I have, or sometimes that can be. It wasn't in this film, but sometimes that can be annoying when it gets dark and you can't really see what's going on, But that was only during one part when they were there in the forest, and I think that was kind of intentional, to get across how dark it was.
How dark was it? Okay, to wrap things up, watch this if you haven't. Watch it if you have.
2 thumbs up.
At least.
At least, yep.
And on that note, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and be back with Geek News for you. And we're back, and it's time for Geek News for you. In this segment, we bring a couple of these items to the table for discussion. This week it is Mikey and myself. And Mike, would you like to go first, please?
Okay, I'll go first, but I'm going to bring everybody down. Because unfortunately, what I'm bringing is kind of an obituary. If you've listened to the show long enough, you know we talk about movies of questionable quality a lot. So we talk about a lot of B-style pictures, movies that are not huge and not intended to be huge blockbusters. The king of the B pictures, Roger Corman, passed away the other day, back on the 9th. And, I mean, he was 98 years old, and he had his hand in, I don't know if it's possible to count how many movies this guy touched in his extremely long career. He'd been making movies since the 50s and was making them up until not that long ago. I don't remember. I couldn't tell you when his last actual credit was. It wouldn't have been terribly long ago. I want to say I remember hearing that he was like 90 and still working on movies. But we can get into detail like that at a later time, because I think we might end up coming back to this topic in the near future, because, man, if anybody deserves some time spent on his life and work, it's Roger Corman.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was a hugely influential producer, director, lots of things. Most people would be completely shocked at how many of the great directors and screenwriters from the 60s and 70s and 80s, even up to today, came out of Corman Studios. It's just really amazing, and he will be sorely missed by a lot of people in Hollywood, pretty much all of Hollywood, really.
Yeah.
And this almost feels like a teaser, but that's sort of possibly by design. We will see.
Yeah, we will see. All right. Well, my story is a little bit happier. It's more of a what the fuck story, but
we like what the fuck stories.
We do.
This is actually a couple weeks old. I was going to have this for last week, but I saved it. So, Rogelio Villarreal. God.
Blah, 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 blah.
Villarreal?
Yeah, thank you. He posted on April 20th that he had been looking at stuff on Instagram and noticed something in particular that brought him to Cartier's website. And if you're familiar with Cartier, the big jeweler. So he's going through looking at all this stuff. He was looking at the necklaces and all that, going, "Wow, someday I might be able to buy this." And then he saw some earrings, and he's like, "Oh, okay." He bought a couple pair. Now the website had it listed at 237 pesos, which supposedly converts into $13.91. Well, come to find out, that's not the actual price of the earrings.
Yeah. The Cartier.
Uh-huh. They were more like 13,000.
Damn.
Big difference.
So, so he bought two pair, and of course, and then of course, Cartier comes after him and starts trying to stop the transaction. So what Viriel did is he used a contact form on the website to cite a federal consumer protection law in Mexico, which states that a goods supplier can be taken to court by not respecting the terms and conditions under which a product or service is bought. Quote, the terms and conditions for sales on Cartier's website in Mexico say disputes can be brought to the Office of Federal Prosecutor for the Consumer of Conciliation, which he said he noticed, and then he filed a complaint and was actually going to take them to court before Cartier comes back and says, you know what, have them.
They're just earrings.
2 sets of earrings. So you're talking close to $28,000 that he got for less than $28.
Yeah. That's crazy.
It would cost them more to fight it.
It would. Well, and not only that, how bad would that look? They're like snob brand, and we're going to fight you over a couple of pesos?
Right.
Quote,
couple?
Relatively speaking, of course.
Yeah. To them, a drop in the bucket,
Right.
That's just earrings. They sell purses and necklaces and, things at least 20 times that price.
Quote, if the Consumer Protection Agency found Cartier or any other company at fault, it could impose fines and penalties, end quote, Jorge Lopez Zelaya, a corporate lawyer, said to New York Times. Agency cannot make business abide by a listed price. Even if a listed price was in obvious error, Mexican law does not extend protections to consumers under those circumstances. So this lawyer says that that Villarreal probably would have lost if he actually went to court, but Cartier decided.
Cartier would have spent a lot more money than that $28,000.
Right.
Yeah.
To get to that point.
So
they would
Wow.
have ended up just having to settle with the guy anyway. So screw it.
right. Yeah.
Cut your losses
Yep.
and go.
Mm-hmm.
Go fix your damn website.
Yeah. Apparently they did it pretty damn quick.
I imagine they did.
Yeah. See,
And
that's
someone
kind of
probably lost-
weird because here we have better protections than that. If you walk into a store and pick up a $1,000 purse and it's marked for $10, they have to abide by that, and they can go fix the mistake after you. But you as consumers, you have to abide by what it's displayed as. So yay us.
Well, good for him.
Yeah. That's crazy, though.
I mean, yeah, that's. I mean, talk about sleeping on the job. Holy crap.
Yeah. I was watching a video the other day. Guy's honeymoon. He's getting married. And the only thing he was responsible for was the honeymoon. So he was like, here we are, like 2 weeks before the wedding, and he's like, guess what I forgot to do? So he goes to book a flight, and he's like, it goes all the way through it, and then nothing. He's like, so I thought I messed up somewhere, and I went back and I did it again, and he did it again, to where it wound up, he pretty much booked the whole entire freaking airplane for himself.
There you go. There you go.
Ouch, that's got a cost.
He's He's like, I'm trying to fix it. He says, and by the time I'm figuring out, this, actually the airline called him, and they're kind of like, do you know what you're doing right now?
No. Yeah.
Well, good for them.
Honestly not. Yeah.
We just want to make sure before we book this whole flight for you,
Right.
So he's like, guess
ways
who
to do
may
this,
not be
dude.
getting married? But online shopping, it's a risk. Sometimes things like that happen,
Mm-hmm.
I've bought 2 of things not realizing I had already put it in the cart when I went and, put it in there again to check out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I imagine we've all done something like that.
Not a
Yeah.
$28,000 mistake, but I would die.
Not 75 airline tickets.
Right? Which was probably close to those earrings.
Mm.
Oh, I would die. That was, ooh. Oops.
I'd get the blood flowing.
Yep.
I could die. I could just die. There's a Lucy reference right there. Forever Darling. You ever seen that one, Liz?
I probably have. I've seen most of her stuff.
Where it was I believe it was Natalie Schaefer. She was playing. She's like a cousin or something like that. But that was her. That was her thing to say. I could die. I could just die. And then there's Desi going, I wish you would. All right. Any special shout outs or mentions this week?
No, don't think so.
Not that I can think of.
Nothing here.
All right, we'll move on to our regular shout-outs. First of all, I want to thank Pop Goes the Culture for allowing us to be part of a great podcast network. Definitely check them out. There'll be a link in our show notes. We also want you to check out the fine men and women who've been kind enough to spread the word of the fellowship on Twitter/X, and that is the people of Podern Family. Best way to find them is to do a search, #Podern Family, just one word. Scroll through the list, and whatever catches your eye, by all means, please click on that link and download the episode. Hope you have a good time listening to them. Want to thank Manny the Martyr for supplying music to our podcast. In our show notes, there will be a link where you can check out some of their other music. Thank you guys, as always. And finally, you, dear listener. Thank you for downloading and listening to today's episode. We value your feedback. Any comments, questions, suggestions, complaints, observations, what have you, please send them our way. Our email address is email@thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, or you can go to the website, go to the About Us page, and there's a contact form you can fill out there. We do have a Discord. You can join that. That's free. We do have an invite on our homepage. There's a section there specifically for feedback. On our Discord, we post a lot of stuff for discussion. Have some fun night activities. Maybe watch a movie or something like that. Post some videos, we'll post memes, that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a fun thing to hang out. So if you want to do that, you can do that. Social media. We're on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks. I've already mentioned Twitter/X there, and on Instagram, we are @Fellowship Geeks. If you like to follow our personal accounts, Mike can be found @MikeyGeek. Liz can be found @LN_geek. Les may or may not be found @FakeLesWebster. And I can be found @TomTCGeek. And from wherever you download our episodes, if you'd be so kind as to rate and review the show, it would be greatly appreciated. Anything else before we say goodbye?
Just thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you listening.
Thanks for listening, everybody. We appreciate the support as always. And until next time, geek on, my friends.
We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,